Welcome to Christian Parent Crazy World, the podcast that tackles tough topics to help you be a godly parent in an ungodly world. I am your host, Catherine Seegers, and in today's episode, we will tackle these crucial questions. Are we taking for granted the enormous responsibility of driving? What are the things we as parents and our kids fail to consider every time we get behind the wheel? You guys, we rarely think about the life and death decisions we make on the road every single day until tragedy strikes. Little choices like adjusting the thermostat, glancing at your kids in the back seat, eating a shrimp taco, speeding while you're late or angry, voice texting, streaming while driving. These things may seem harmless. They're commonplace. But if you ever find yourself standing before a grand jury answering for a fatal accident like my guest today, you don't want to have to admit to any of these distractions, because not only can these choices lead to deadly crashes, they can send you to prison. So how do we become mindful, prayerful, and responsible drivers? How do we truly love our neighbors while operating 2 tons of steel? That's the ground we will cover in this episode of Christian Parent Crazy World. So let's get started.
Hey there, parents. Are you tired of the babysitter search struggle? Look no further. Welcome to KingdomCareSitters.com, where Christian families connect with like-minded sitters who share their faith.
I was searching for a reliable sitter who understands our faith and family dynamics. With KingdomCareSitters.com, I found the perfect match.
And guess what? You can discover sitter profiles, post jobs, and even schedule and book short-term or long-term care, all on the user-friendly website, KingdomCareSitters.com.
Plus, KingdomCareSitters.com lets you pay securely online. Whether it's date night, work commitments, or just some me time, Kingdom Care's got you covered.
As a sitter, I love being part of this community. I set my own rates, connect with amazing families, and make a difference in their lives.
Are you ready to find your perfect match? Visit KingdomCareSitters.com today, because when faith meets childcare, it's a match made in heaven.
For some of us, personal finances aren't just personal. They include loved ones, neighbors, the communities we call home, and the causes we hold in our hearts. At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than just money. We help you put your plans into motion and faith into action so you can do more for the ones in your heart. Because sometimes all you need to make a difference is someone to help you make it happen. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.
I've been waiting 2 years to have this conversation with today's guest. Jennifer Eikenhorst's story shook me to my very core when I first heard it, because if we're honest, like really honest, it could have happened to any of us. An ordinary day, an ordinary road, an ordinary turn, and in a split second, everything changed. A fatal accident, a life lost, many lives changed forever. Now, if you've been listening over the past couple of episodes, you know Jen's story very well by now. In episode 142, we wrestled with the crushing guilt that can come from a mistake, how God's sovereignty leaves us with endless what ifs and whys, and while we may never fully understand why certain things happen, we can hold on to who walks with us through the darkest nights of the soul. Then in episode 143, something completely unexpected happened, you guys. Jen and I sat down to talk about driving safety, the episode we're airing today, but the Holy Spirit had other plans. That conversation took a big turn, and we found ourselves diving deep into what happens when the enemy comes to sift us, how shame and pain bury us alive if we let them. That was a raw and powerful episode, one of the most personal conversations I've ever had on this show. So if you missed either of those, please go back and listen. They are so important. But today, Jen is back for a conversation that every single parent and every young driver needs to hear. Now, Jen is the author of Left Turn Life Unimagined and the host of Accidental Hope, a podcast and ministry dedicated to walking alongside those who have experienced accidental death. She also serves on the advisory council for the Hyacinth Fellowship, an organization that supports individuals who have unintentionally caused harm to others. Now, moms and dads, these last two conversations were about healing from tragedy. Today's conversation is about preventing it. I promise you, this will change the way you and your kids think about driving in a way that just might save a life. So with that said, let's jump right in. Jen, welcome back to Christian Parent Crazy World. It's so awesome to have you back.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you for this conversation we're going to have.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I want to let our listeners know, most of the time I do like back-to-back episodes like this. We record them back-to-back, they may be a week apart on the show, but they're usually just a few minutes apart. This one, however, has been over like a month.
Yes. I feel like we blink and time just flies,
It did. And so I say that by way of saying neither of us are 100% aware of exactly what happened in the previous conversation. So if we're a little redundant, please give us some grace.
Thanks for grace. Yes.
Right. The topic that we're talking about today that I really wanted to get into was driving safety, because your testimony made me think of things I had never thought about before, Jen. I think we might have talked about, you and I had met at the Spark Media Conference. It's been, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years since that. When I was at that conference, I met dozens and dozens and dozens of people with incredible, powerful messages and testimonies. But when I flew back, and my daughter at the time, I think she was 18. Yeah. So it's been almost 2 years. She came and picked me up at the airport. I had my two older kids. My third now just got her learner's permit just a few weeks ago. And so all three of them were in the car. And the very first thing I told them after getting in the car was your testimony, because you made me think of things that I had not thought about in years. We were just talking before the show. We drive so casually. We drive cavalierly. We don't think about the fact that we're operating 2.5 tons of metal that can become a weapon. And so what I want to talk about is the rest of your testimony about having to answer for everything that happened on the day of your accident. So let's just very briefly recap your accident for anyone who might not have heard the first episode. If you haven't, please go back and listen to that first. But let's just talk about what happened that day very briefly, and then we'll get into the second part of your testimony about having to answer for that day and what happened before the grand jury that brings up these questions we never think about when we're in the car anymore.
Right. And one that blesses me. I mean, it's not easy to share this testimony. And a lot of people would question, why in the world would she continue to talk about this? There's a lot of questions of like, is this selfish? Is this inconsiderate of the victim's family? I always take that into consideration. But when someone says, hey, your testimony made me rethink some things.
Yes.
Whether it be forgiveness or driving safety, or even I've had someone who was like wrestling with not having closure of a situation, and they reach out, then I am reminded, okay, Lord, this is what you've asked me to do, because sometimes, you question that, right? And so you telling me that encourages me that something stuck, that I don't think that could be anything of my doing, that I pray that was truly the Holy Spirit just making you think of something, whether it's compassion or, like I said, forgiveness. So thank you for telling me that, because it is hard. It's not easy. And I often wonder why in the world, but I gave God my yes. So, that evening was a normal day. It was just a Tuesday, and my daughters were in the car. The things I remember most is like, we're normally very busy. I had 4 children in different sports, multiple sports, different calendars. I was in education. We were the typical family. I had never been in a car accident before. I didn't even have a ticket. I was pretty I'm not type A about much. I am your type B friend. I'm the type B mom. But when it comes to driving, I was always type A. Like, we're not going to do something silly. I'm the horrible passenger driver getting onto my husband about going over the speed limit. 10 and 2, I am not that one to be silly and like move the car around. So of all the people, I felt like I had this almost like an arrogancy, like the Lord protect me from other people. But on October 4th, it was just a normal day and plans changed for myself. And I learned, for the victim as well. And that's a whole different layer of trying to understand things and trust God with a scenario. But I was leaving from picking up my daughter and made a left-hand turn onto it was a hill, there was a blind spot, and a man on a motorcycle was approaching from my left, and I didn't see him. And his name was David. And he was a father to 3 and a veteran and a good man. He did nothing wrong that evening, and he passed away. And I have to live with that burden that it was my mistake because he had the right of way. So I take full responsibility that it doesn't matter that there was a tree or a hill. It was still my responsibility to make sure it was safe. And I'll never understand fully of why those things happened. It affected not only his family, like a brother and parents, if they were surviving parents, and his children, co-workers and buddies, my girls that were in the car that experienced that trauma, the first responders that came. I mean, there was just a ripple of a lot of pain. My parents worried about me. And I think that's kind of the part of the testimony that we didn't get to. I think my mom and dad, because of my uncle's testimony, who has gone in and out of prison for a drug addiction, one of their worst case fears probably is to have a child that would then enter into the prison system. And in the state of Texas, every single fatality must go before a grand jury. And these are things that I never thought about. None of us do, right? We know.
No.
But we sure are ready to persecute people when we see these news things about the accidents because they happen so frequently. I mean, I think 40,000 people a year, give or take. That might even be conservative. It's estimated that every 18 minutes, there is an accidental killer like myself, every 18 minutes in the U.S. alone.
Oh, my.
I mean, that includes accidental shooting and things like that. But still, this number is staggering. And I don't know why. So when I share this part, we have to know the big picture is we trust God. And I wrestled and I questioned if God was still good because he allowed me to hurt someone. But trust and surrender became so real to me. So that night, the provision part is that I wasn't doing anything that was overtly negligent. We weren't in a hurry that day. But how many times am I in a hurry?
Yes, I know. We are. Sometimes we can't
right,
avoid that.
Mom. Yeah. I was not aggravated or upset. I wasn't sleepy.
But sometimes we drive that way. We drive sleepy. We drive aggravated. We drive upset. We drive hungry, and we eat in the car. And see, we don't think about it.
We don't think about it.
But those are the kind of questions you had to answer about your day. So how did that come about? What, who asked you? Did you have to answer those to the grand jury? And
the officer in charge. So no, okay. I was questioned 3 separate times, really, to see.
So what were those questions like? This is what haunted me after I met you, was the kind of questions that we don't think about that we have to think about and we need to convey to our children. Like I said, I've just got a 15-year-old who got her permit. I've got a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. And these are the conversations we need to be having with children when they're in their cars, because we don't think about all of the kind of questions that you got asked because of what happened on that day. So tell us these questions.
Yeah. And I think the realization is the moment the accident happened, it became about an investigation. They knew that they had to begin preparing an investigation, probably because of statistics of a motorcyclist and an automobile, right? But when there is a serious accident, they go into investigation mode. I mean, they're taking big lights and they're measuring things and they're marking blood splatter. They're marking off the road. I mean, I remember just in shock watching these things unfold and not really understanding what was happening. Like it was just of course, I just kept praying for the man, but I'm sitting there not understanding fully what was happening. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I wasn't doing anything that I felt like would hurt someone. And I would never intentionally hurt someone. None of us, unless you're an evil person, we don't get into the car. Even people with addictions, we don't get into the car to overtly hurt someone, And I just kept thinking, this is just a normal day. Like, this isn't the way that the day was supposed to go. It's just past 8:00 and I had called 911 and I did the things that I was told to do, but I was in shock. And I went into physical shock, like where I could no longer assist and I had to give the people that were now helping me over. And those are the psychological things that we can't prevent. And you and I don't know how you're going to respond in a situation like this. And I pray that no one ever experiences it. But the immediate investigation started then. And the thing that I'm really grateful for is I'd never been in a police car. And they called me out of the cold because this took several hours. And of course, I had to hand over my phone. I had to give a timeline of my day, what was happening in the car, and I'm casually, I think it's like truth serum, Yeah. I'm ready to tell this police officer my whole life story if he wants it. Like I'm ready to comply. But again, that's the shock, not really understanding. So were we in a hurry to go somewhere? I'm like, no, we were just going home, How was your day today? What do you do for a living? Were the kids crying? And I'm like, no, nobody was crying. Katie was just telling me about her day. I'm like, I am literally ready to, did you have the radio on? I think so.
Okay, stop right there. How often is that something that could potentially make you more liable, I guess, if you're listening to a radio in the car?
If you have it blaring, I think he was trying to help me. He was trying to investigate if that was why I didn't hear the motorcycle sound approaching.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm,
so if you think of like an officer, I think that is, if we blare a radio to where we can't hear first responders coming, but I think he wanted to, because his next preceding question or somewhere in that mix was, did you hear the sound of the motorcycle? And I'm like, no. So then it's like, okay, well, were the kids crying? No, could that have distracted me? Was the radio on? And I think so, but I don't think so as much because Katie was telling me about her day, and so he's like, oh, what was happening? Well, she told me about her volleyball game. I'm literally I'm ready to tell him everything. How is your relationship with your husband? You have to answer to that, because
what's your emotional state prior to the accident? Was that a contributing factor? Because these are the things. This is what blew my mind when I met you. I'm like, I never thought about all of that before. No. It's never occurred to me. So we haven't even gotten to the stuff that's legitimately distracting that we all do, that you have done before, but you weren't during that day.
Yeah.
But we all do, maybe listening to something too loud, fiddling with the radio.
Your playlist,
turning your head, eating.
Like we all think, oh, I'm not going to text and drive anymore because now I'm just going to tell Siri to send the message, right?
Right.
But the thing is the number one cause of accidents is daydreaming. It's distraction. That's the number one.
You're thinking about something else.
We're thinking about something else. We're thinking about that to-do list. Oh, when I get home, it's like, okay, homework, pack the folders, get that in the thing. Oh, don't forget, you've got to move the stuff from the washer to the dryer. What are women doing?
Yes.
We are using that time in the car.
We're organizing our task list.
Or how many times, this is going to ruffle some feathers, how many times are we replaying a conversation that maybe we just had? And I think that's where the whole, how is your night's sleep? How is your relationship with your husband? Because I'm sure they've had someone say, well, I was thinking about that argument I had. We're driving and we have empty space, but what do we have? What should we be doing? We should be taking thoughts captive.
Right.
And when we're playing that in, or we're just jamming to the radio to where we're like really just into it, not going, oh, wait, I'm going a little too fast,
Oh, you know what I do? I practice my introduction sometimes for my podcast while I'm driving, just stuff like that. We all do that. Well, not non-podcasters, maybe.
Well,
we're rehearsing.
Right, but you're thinking about your presentation, your sermon,
Your class you're going to teach.
But here's the thing. We have to balance it with, we don't want the enemy to have like a spirit of fear where we're living in fear.
Exactly.
But we have to have some reverence.
Yes.
Right? Almost like that, because what would we do if we were holding a loaded weapon in a room full of people that we love?
Yes.
Right? If we're holding a loaded weapon in a room of people and we're having to like hold the weapon and share the weapon, and we know that this weapon, there's not a safety on the weapon. Like, this is a loaded weapon.
It is.
We're not going to be tired and operate with that weapon, right? We're not going to be paying attention and just flailing it around while we're doing other things. We're not going to always multitask while holding that weapon, right? We are holding a loaded weapon as we drive.
And think about this. I would never, like, with a loaded weapon, go around eating some Cheetos or a burger or something.
Casually.
And yet we eat in the car. See, that would have been a major factor, would it not? Wasn't there? I think there was a guy down in Texas who it was a shrimp taco or something.
A shrimp taco, and he let the shrimp fall to his lap. Yes. So then he grabbed the shrimp because, like, that's what you paid $5 for, right? Is that shrimp? And you look down, but the moment he did it, he hit a cyclist.
See, and that made him liable, I'm sure.
And he went to prison. So, guys, this is the thing. Nothing, and I need to be so explicit here. Nothing will make this better. Like, I can't atone for it. Jesus can. I can't take things back. I can't do good works to make this better. And I can't live perfectly because I'm an imperfect human being. I can't live in fear. I do need to be reverent and non-complacent. When I share these things, I don't want anyone to come away from it fearful, but it starts with us. Our children are watching us. If we can justify going 5 miles over the speed limit, then guess what, guys? They will be able to. And friends, it is the most heartbreaking thing when I hear from a mom whose 16-year-old just killed someone. It is heartbreaking when the mom calls me and says, I've just been in an accident with someone. There is no better or worse. The people we do life with are most likely going to be the people who are involved, right? So it is just heart-wrenching, all the stories. The tragedy is just, it's an abyss of just tragedy. The goodness of God is that we can do our very best to love our neighbor by thinking through these things. What would you do?
Yes.
How would you change things if you did have this loaded weapon? You wouldn't revisit the to-do list while you're driving. You wouldn't fiddle with things in the car. You certainly would not stream And one hand up and looking into the camera, you've got this word, guys, that's illegal. Friends, hear me out. This is illegal in almost every state. You cannot record yourself while driving. I don't care what the Holy Spirit just gave you. Guess what? That means you pull over and share that message and then safely get back on the, you have a text that you really need to respond to. You pull over and reply to that text. You really hate this playlist and you need to change it right now because it's not appropriate with your kids in the car. You pull over and take care of business. You're really, really hungry. Pull over. You're going to eat in 5 minutes, then be on your way. And no one wants to hear these things.
Right. They don't. Let's dig into the phone for just a second, too, because I've thought of this. Like, say you're at an intersection and you jot off a voice text. I've done that many times. But what if something happened 20 feet down the road from that intersection? There is a record of you texting while you're driving.
Yes. And you have to answer for it.
You're going to have to answer for it. Now, will they believe you? Maybe, maybe not. And,
but I know someone was in litigation for 5 years.
Oh my gosh, Jen. Yeah. For that?
She sent a text from a parking lot. Actually, she really did. She pulled out of that parking lot and literally a minute later crashed into a motorcyclist, and it went round and round. Like she had to answer for it and try. It was so close.
Yeah. And here's another thing I was thinking about yesterday, because I was driving somewhere. My daughter, who's 15, is in the passenger seat, and I tell her to text my husband for me.
That I don't know.
I wondered, but that's what I mean. You come to mind all the time. Your testimony comes to mind because I was thinking about it. I'm like, so she's texting for me. I'm not actually doing the texting, but it's coming from my phone. And could that potentially be an issue? I don't know.
It would, you would have to prove it 100%.
And how do you prove that?
Because I've done the same thing. Now I have my daughter who can text for me and like, hey, I can hand her my phone. Thank goodness she just got her phone to where now she can text for herself. But even when so we have that rating on our phone where if we have good driving practices, it monitors how we do, like not texting and not speeding and not hard brakes. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. We have this app that saves us money, right? And I have my daughter, Haven, with me all the time. Well, when we first got it, I would let her play on my phone because I'm driving and she has like little educational games on my phone and things like that. And then I got this feedback that I'm phone usage while I'm driving. And I was like, oh, no. Like, I do not need that, because your record.
But that's what it looks like. We need to, scripture tells us to avoid the appearance of evil.
Well, be above reproach, that they can't even talk about you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even evil. You're not doing anything wrong. And yet it could be the appearance of it in a way that could get you like going round and round in litigation, trying to prove the fact that, well, actually it was in a parking lot when I sent that text, or actually it was at an intersection, or actually my daughter was next to me in the car. I'm just saying, let's think about it. We've got to think about these things.
We do. And like I said, to my point earlier, like there's really nothing that you can do to make this better, and there's no excuse, right? So I want you to think about the victim's family. If you're like, you find yourself in this position, you're looking over at the victim's family, you're like, well, I never usually text and drive. It was just this one time. Or like the Lord gave me such a great message, so I just felt like I was going to forget, or I have this wide open space, so it's just us, and I felt like it was safe, But guys, we drive. If you are going 40 miles per hour, it takes less than 4 seconds to travel the length of a football field.
Wow.
Now, let's put that in perspective. You're driving 40 miles per hour and in less than 4 seconds. So if you have anything that can take your mind or your eyes off that road, a pedestrian, a big pothole that you lose control of the car, all of those things can happen. But when you have to answer for it, like the grand jury, having to get a criminal defense attorney, these are things I never expected. And I had to realize that 12 jurors were going to decide my fate. And because of the expense, these are also things I learned. I was prepared to maybe take a plea deal.
Really?
I lived in a small town in Texas, and the man that passed away was a good, outstanding community member. He was a veteran and a father. And I just, in some ways, felt like maybe I deserved to be punished, even though I could not think of what I would do differently. Besides being complacent, I did not inch up to the end of that road. I did not treat it like a busy intersection because it's a quiet country road.
Right.
I was complacent, and I think I felt like I deserved it, and which is a really strange mental place to be. Like, you want to fight for your freedom because you have your own children. You want to provide everything you possibly can to the victim's family. You have children of your own that you have to feed. If I choose to do a plea deal, I save my family $45,000 in trial, and the pain of that. If I take the plea deal, well, then I've just answered the worst fear of my parents, that I may have to serve, a sentence, and I lose my teaching license, which I'm passionate about. I mean, literally, we were in a pressure cooker, and I just was hanging on by a thread. Like, Lord, are you really good? Where are you in this? And I did have to surrender to, Lord, no matter what happens, I do love you, and I'll serve you. Whatever the answer is tomorrow, I'm going to trust you that your will is done tomorrow. Whether that means I do really have to take a plea deal or we do go to trial, like, I surrender it because this is bigger than me.
Hey there, parents. Are you tired of the babysitter search struggle? Look no further. Welcome to KingdomCareSitters.com, where Christian families connect with like-minded sitters who share their faith.
I was searching for a reliable sitter who understands our faith and family dynamics. With KingdomCareSitters.com, I found the perfect match.
And guess what? You can discover sitter profiles, post jobs, and even schedule and book short-term or long-term care, all on the user-friendly website, KingdomCareSitters.com.
Plus, KingdomCareSitters.com lets you pay securely online. Whether it's date night, work commitments, or just some me time, Kingdom Care's got you covered.
As a sitter, I love being part of this community. I set my own rates, connect with amazing families, and make a difference in their lives.
Are you ready to find your perfect match? Visit KingdomCareSitters.com today, because when faith meets childcare, it's a match made in heaven.
For some of us, personal finances aren't just personal. They include loved ones, neighbors, the communities we call home, and the causes we hold in our hearts. At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than just money. We help you put your plans into motion and faith into action so you can do more for the ones in your heart. Because sometimes all you need to make a difference is someone to help you make it happen. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.
I wanted to touch on just a couple of things. The one story that jumps out at me, you had shared with me, and we talked about this a little bit. We see it on Instagram all the time. People are driving and doing Instagram reels, and
it's becoming a norm and scary.
It's crazy. And I've never done that. I did one Instagram reel in a parking lot once while I was parked. But I mean, like, I don't understand this. You reached out to a kind of a fairly prominent Christian influencer who had done a live reel with her daughter in the back of the car.
Yeah, visibly. I could see in her car seat. Yeah.
So you direct messaged her. You didn't say anything on her public page or anything. And the reaction you got was not, "Oh, thank you. It was great that you thought." I just didn't think about it. She was a little prickly with you, wasn't she?
Yeah, because this is touchy. I mean, who wants to be told how when I just told you, hey, pull over when the kids are upset in the car, like, we don't just threaten that I'll pull this car over. No, pull over. How many moms went, are you kidding me? If I had to do that every time? Okay. But I'm saying you just put yourself out there for opportunity. And I don't want this to be like we're trying to give you this message. I hope that this is preventing something. But in that particular instance, I always pray. I've had to give this message to a couple of friends, and I've had some that say, oh my gosh, Jennifer, thank you. You know what? You're right. Then I've had one that blatantly did it again. But this particular instance, she is a woman of influence. I think she has well over 150,000 followers on Instagram. Christian woman, has great messaging, including the message she was giving that day. It was just a word from the Lord that made her so passionate that she was so excited to share it. She had dropped off kids at school and she had her littlest still in the car with her. And you got that break of time, right? I know. It's like, what am I going to do? I really need to get this. And I have this space. I have a 20-minute drive home or whatever. So she gave this great word. And the whole time I'm having anxiety. It was not live. It was a video recording, but she recorded herself and you could actively see cars going by. She didn't have it in her hand. I'm sure she had a device, handheld device, but she was video recording and looking over at this, but then she posted it. And do you want that to be the evidence that goes before court?
Right.
Do you want the enemy to be in your ear that what if the person that passed away in her totally fluke accident was her daughter in a car? Do you want that to be what the enemy tries to use in your head? Well, you were recording a video while you were doing that. Do you want that? Because that's what will happen. And so I prayed about it and I was like, this gives me such anxiety. She is being used by the Lord. The Lord obviously has given her a place of influence. I want to tell her. So I prayed and then I said, hi, so-and-so. I've been following you for about 6 months. What a great word you shared. I tried to do the sandwich thing. And I said, but I did want to let you know that when you record and drive, it is illegal. It is illegal. You are breaking the law. Guys, we have to own that. When we make a decision, drinking and driving is breaking the law.
Yes.
Texting and driving is breaking the law. Streaming and driving is breaking the law. And I'm sorry that is frustrating, but it is the truth.
Listen to this. I just found out my daughter, my 15-year-old who's got her permit, informed me that the little country town we live near, it's illegal to eat and drive in that city. It's illegal to eat. And so we need to know what these laws are. And they're there for a reason, because I don't want to be having to explain.
They're probably named after a person who died because of eating in the car. Guys, and those are families. And I know we take advantage of this. And I am sensitive to this. I know it's really hard, but her reaction to me, I literally said, I say this from love, and I lived this in 2016. I was in a car accident that killed another man, and I've lived this. I don't ever want you to feel this weight. Your daughter was in the car. Just be careful, because this is illegal. And I just said, if you're ever curious about, anything else of my testimony, I'm happy to share it. But I don't want you to have to go through what I've lived. I didn't accuse her or anything. And she wrote back that I'll just take it down because I can't keep everyone happy. And then she said, well, you just vomited your trauma all over me. And so I hope you're happy. I've taken it down.
Wow.
And I have experienced trauma, and it's kind of I have had people be like, how dare you? You've killed someone. How dare you be the one to tell me how to drive? You've killed someone. I have had more than one person say things like that to me, and I have to say, you are 100% right. And it is horrifying to live this and to still have joy and to still remember who my Father in heaven says I am. And to openly talk about it, I put myself at risk of these types of comments, But I did have to wrestle, like, Lord, was I vomiting my trauma on her? Like, I felt it was from you, but I did. I took it to the Lord. And then I had to remember, like, it's between her and the Lord. I pray that she never, like, this wasn't a heat of caution to where, a year from now and something happens and she goes, who is that person who sent me that one message? What if I had listened? I don't want that to be true. I hope that it was like, well, she reacted to my message, but maybe the Lord will still work on her.
That's amazing to me that she said that to you about vomiting your trauma. I think the mature response, and as godly Christian parents, we need to be mature. When someone sends us a cautionary message like that, we need to be humble and gracious. Yeah. And that was very immature, and hopefully some maturity has come, and hopefully the Lord has really kind of helped her to see, to mature in that way. I would hope. Yeah. I want to just write in our closing moments here, just mention a few statistics here that we can leave the audience with so that they're aware of the reality that we face when we drive cars. Despite the improvements, pedestrian deaths continue to climb, it was a 40-year high. In 2022, traffic deaths have also risen in recent years, according to the New York Times analysis. In the first half of 2023, there was an estimated 19,515 people who were killed in traffic crashes. And that's according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Statistics show that as many as 30,000, I think, were you saying 40,000 people die every year from accident? Yeah, accidental death.
That's the U.S. alone. Yeah.
Right. I think it was 30,000 from car accidents, 40,000 total. And like you said, every 18 minutes, someone causes the death of another person. And I think you might have mentioned this before as well, that if you add on serious injuries to that, it's like 10 times as high.
Right.
So understanding the reality of what we're doing. And I love that imagery, having a loaded weapon in a room filled with people that we care about. Well, we're constantly driving cars with people we care about, and we're coming in contact with vehicles carrying people that other people care about. And so before we get in the car, let's just make sure that we're thinking about these things, and we're operating that car with our electronic devices in a wise and a mature and a legal way. And other things, like I said, the little town near me, it's illegal to eat while you're driving in that town. One little thing I wanted to add in there, you had mentioned, mothers saying, well, if I had to pull over every time. We learned early on in our parenting that if we pull over, we don't have as many times in the car where we might have to pull over, because when your kids understand, I'll never forget, each one of them, they'll test you in the car. That's the biggest place when you have a little kid. They will test you because they know you're busy. They know you have to be somewhere else and you're in a hurry. And
that's a whole nother sermon, right? Like
really
how we live our lives to where, we'll compromise. Yeah.
But like if it's at night, if it's raining, they know that they're noticing they're not going to want to pull over. We made it a priority that if we had a disciplinary issue with a child in the car that we pulled over, we give them one warning. I will pull over. Then we pulled over. Rain, shine, interstate. I'm not pulling over on the side of the interstate, but I'm finding an exit. We will do it. And you know what happens? The kids behave in the car. They start behaving in the car because they know.
It's a miracle.
I know. They know where the boundary is. They know they can't press. I'll never forget. I was in the car with my brother-in-law once, and I had a kid that was acting up in the back, and they were a little further along in their parenting journey. And he wasn't speaking his mind. I'm like, well, what would you do? He's like, oh, I would have pulled over miles ago. And I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head, well, that's just inconvenient. No, what's inconvenient is when your kid doesn't know the boundary, they're always going to press it. Anyways, that's just a little added bonus.
Yes. And you know what? You've reminded me about even making sure we wear our seatbelt. Guys, please wear your seatbelt correctly. I don't know why I didn't say that a minute ago, but making sure your kids are safely in their seatbelts, everyone in the car, every drive. I don't care if you're like, oh, well, we're just going up the road. If your teenager is in the back seat, he's still wearing a seatbelt, even though he's like a man-child, and you think, oh, well, he's safe. No, I don't care if you're driving 10 hours. You still wear a seatbelt because the person in your vehicle becomes a missile in your car.
Yes.
And guys.
And make sure they're wearing them properly. Because I can't tell you how many times, like, I've looked and seen a kid who had on a seatbelt, but they had trying to get comfortable in a different
arm.
Yeah,
exactly. And then they're severed. Yeah. But also talking to your teenager, this is a big one. I know this only because of experience of people writing to me. If a child is not buckled in your car and there is a situation, you will be charged with child abuse. Okay? That is a felony. So then you have possibly negligent driving plus child abuse. If the child passes away, then that's manslaughter, right? If you have a teenager driving with the siblings and one of the siblings do not have their seatbelt on in that car, your child, the driver, is now going to be charged with child abuse.
Wow.
Okay, so we have to know that this is not just like type A, oh my gosh, so anal, so OCD. Guys, there are laws that we don't realize until we have to know them. So please have these conversations and lead by example. I don't know how many times I had heard prior to this people saying things like, well, if I'm going to go, I don't want to be a vegetable, so I don't wear my seatbelt. I had heard this from more than one person. And of course, now that really hurts me. Just those comments, those things, how much it hurts. People who have thought about taking their own life and throwing themselves in front of cars or trains or buses, how deeply it affects the person driving. They'll never be the same. It's not just this way for you to go. It's literally deeply going to haunt the person driving. Pedestrians, please know the laws, wear reflective gear, think through things like, what time of day is this? Is the lighting to where it may cause visual things? Love your neighbor. If you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, love your neighbor enough that you are cautious to protect even the drivers, because there is motion blindness. There are things that are happening in the car to where they may not see you. So be protecting yourself, but also protecting the people around you who do not want to end up in that situation. Wear your reflective gear, walk on the right way, use flashlights, be aware, don't be texting and walking to where you're not aware of other vehicles around you, So all of those things, I guess, since you brought up that statistic, yes, please be cautious of that.
Hey there, parents. Are you tired of the babysitter search struggle? Look no further. Welcome to KingdomCareSitters.com, where Christian families connect with like-minded sitters who share their faith.
I was searching for a reliable sitter who understands our faith and family dynamics. With KingdomCareSitters.com, I found the perfect match.
And guess what? You can discover sitter profiles, post jobs, and even schedule and book short-term or long-term care, all on the user-friendly website, KingdomCareSitters.com.
Plus, KingdomCareSitters.com lets you pay securely online. Whether it's date night, work commitments, or just some me time, Kingdom Care's got you covered.
As a sitter, I love being part of this community. I set my own rates, connect with amazing families, and make a difference in their lives.
Are you ready to find your perfect match? Visit KingdomCareSitters.com today, because when faith meets childcare, it's a match made in heaven.
For some of us, personal finances aren't just personal. They include loved ones, neighbors, the communities we call home, and the causes we hold in our hearts. At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than just money. We help you put your plans into motion and faith into action so you can do more for the ones in your heart. Because sometimes all you need to make a difference is someone to help you make it happen. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.
Hey, mamas and papas, Catherine here. I have got something amazing for you. Completely free resources designed to equip and encourage you on this wild parenting journey. Struggling with a prodigal child? Well, I've created Partnering with God for Your Prodigal, a bundle packed with my podcasts, articles, and go-to resources to help you navigate this heartbreaking but hope-filled road. Need powerful prayers for your family? Grab my topical scripture lists, perfect for covering your kids and yourself in God's Word. Want to help your kids memorize scripture? I've got ya. My scripture memory bundle makes it easy, fun, and effective to plant truth deep in their hearts. Tired of the lies culture feeds to moms? My groundbreaking ebook, Beyond the Lies, uncovering 5 myths or culture spreads to mothers, will help you replace deception with God's truth. And as a CPCW insider, you'll get a weekly email with all the highlights, interviews, articles, speaking engagements, and transcripts, so you never miss a thing. All of this for the low, low price of nothing. So what are you waiting for? Head over to CatherineSeegers.com and subscribe today. And let's do this parenting journey together. Now back to my conversation with Jen Eikenhorst. Yeah. And one thing, I can remember times where I was transporting somebody else's kids and somebody else's kid didn't want to wear a seatbelt in my car. And I'm like, I got to be that mom, but I'm going to be that mom. You don't get in my car if you don't have a seatbelt on. Because think about that. We have this rule in our family, but if you're in my car, you're wearing a seatbelt because you are liable as the driver, just as you said, for every person who is in your car. And you're liable even if they are in the back seat and they take it off. So you need to have these conversations with your kids. Hey, darling, you can't take this off. And this is, by the way, how you need to be wearing it. Yes. So sometimes I'll be in the passenger seat and I'll turn around, my husband's driving and I'll turn around and I'm like, whoa, if we were in an accident right now, that seatbelt would not save your life because of the way you're wearing it, because of how you've positioned yourself in the seatbelt and you put it under your arm or something like that. So,
and we don't want to ruffle the feathers, but we have to, guys.
We have to. This is a feather ruffling episode and a good one at that. Lord, keep us safe. Lord, just keep us safe. And I pray that this message would get out there and that people like me, since I've met you, will think about a lot of things we never thought about before and start driving more carefully and driving like we are actually operating a loaded weapon, because we are. It can be a weapon. So thank you so much, Jen. Tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your testimony and contact you if they need to.
Yeah, my website is accidentalhope.com. You can listen to some of the stories of people who share their walk. In this, I want to invite anyone to the table, whether you lost a loved one or you were the driver, and an aspect of hope on Accidental Hope podcast. And just thank you so much. My book is Left Turn Life Unimagined. If you want to go a little deeper into what that exactly was like, trusting the Lord in this really horrible situation, it's 90 days. And I feel a lifetime in 90 days wondering what would happen with the grand jury. And I'm thankful that I was no billed, but it didn't end there. This is a lifelong suffering.
That was the one other thing I meant to ask. I'm like, we can't end without telling the end of the story. So what does that mean exactly? No billed?
They did not find me gross negligent. There was no criminal evidence. I did follow the law to the best of my ability, and all 12 jurors. I got the message actually the week before Christmas.
So you did not have to serve time. But a lot of people do in these instances if they can find something negligent that you did.
Yeah. Or if they're nervous, like a new grand jury is like, oh man, what would I do if I was in this situation? What if that was my loved one? You're literally at the mercy of the jurors, which I'm grateful for our justice system, but there is flaws. But I was like, who am I? Innocent people go to prison all the time.
Right.
If I take a plea deal, I wouldn't be really acknowledging my guilt, but just saying, I feel guilty. So maybe so, but to avoid $45,000, that was a year's salary for me. I was like,
that's what you guys had to pay in order for your defense?
No. That I had a retainer. If it had gone to trial, it could have been upwards of $45,000 for a trial.
So you were, I guess, would you say, acquitted of wrongdoing as the conclusion.
Right. But that is just the criminal side. I still had a civil side. I was still civilly responsible for the family. So guys, there is just aspects of this that I never want you to journey. I don't. So all that we can do is proceed with caution and reverence. Trusting the Lord, praying for God's, protection.
Amen.
Being the best as we can be, just good stewards, and to live our lives in a way that we don't, that we can slow down, that we can be more aware of our surroundings. And this will be fruitful for all aspects of our life, not just for driving, right?
Yes.
But then also knowing our Lord in such an intimate way that if something were to happen, to trust him fully and know that he's got you. I needed to have those scriptures, those truths of who he was and what his voice was in me. Because when I was inundated with the enemy's lies, and I was literally seeing my entire life, my entire self-identity, just devastated, if I didn't have some of those things already in place, what did I believe before the accident? I wouldn't be here. Catherine, I wouldn't have made it. So it's not about if tragedy will come, it's when. So we have to be cautious and have those scriptures in our life, in our heart, surrounded, saturated, having these conversations of trusting the Lord fully, even
when the unthinkable happens.
Yes.
And you're right. We all have to face a certain amount of suffering and tragedy in this life. And there are different levels of it. And yours has been so powerful. It's just powerful. It's a cautionary tale to all of us to make sure that we're safe in the cars, but also what God can do, even when at our hand something unthinkable happens, that God still has a plan, that you're still his child. He still loves you, and that your identity is in him and not what anybody else thinks about you. This conversation has been so powerful and necessary. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for shedding light on a topic that I think we'd all rather avoid.
Right.
But we have to face it. We have to face it because at some point, something will happen. It may not look like what it happened with you, but your testimony is powerful and applicable to so many different situations. And your honesty and wisdom and courage and sharing your story have been just so eye-opening and life-changing for parents and teens alike. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for being obedient to the Lord and sharing your story.
Thank you.
What we do behind the wheel matters, moms and dads. I think that we know that. And yet, if you're like me, you forget. And we need someone like Jen to remind us that operating 2 tons of steel is a very serious thing. Every decision, every distraction could be the difference between life and death. So let's commit to being more mindful, prayerful, and responsible drivers. And let's teach our kids to do the same. And if this episode challenged you, and I don't know how it couldn't have, it certainly challenged me, please share it with your kids, your friends, anyone you know who gets behind the wheel of a car. You guys, this just might save a life. I want to thank you for joining me today. Look, I know there are a lot of things you could be listening to right now, and I really appreciate that you took this time to spend with me. I hope you will join me for my next podcast when we take aim at some aspect of our culture that threatens to derail our parenting and steal our kids' faith. If you enjoyed this episode of Christian Parent Crazy World, would you consider telling a friend and sharing it on social media and giving it a good review over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and following me on Facebook and Instagram? Oh, and maybe you could say that Christian Parent Crazy World is the best podcast you've ever heard in your entire life. Just a thought. And be sure to check out my website, which is CatherineSegars.com. That's Catherine with a C. I have lots of articles and resources there that will help you on your parenting journey. And if you subscribe, I will be sure to send you some really cool free stuff and notify you of future podcasts, articles, and blogs. I want to end this and every episode with a word of encouragement. God gave you your kids, your specific kids, for a reason. That's because you hold the key to unlocking who God created them to be. We'll see you next time.
Christian Parent Crazy World is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
For some of us, personal finances aren't just personal. They include loved ones, neighbors, the communities we call home, and the causes we hold in our hearts. At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than just money. We help you put your plans into motion and faith into action so you can do more for the ones in your heart. Because sometimes all you need to make a difference is someone to help you make it happen. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.